Today, October 15, is the memorial of Saint Teresa of Jesus, or known as Saint Teresa of Avila, Virgin and Doctor of the Church. Saint Teresa was born in Avila, Spain, on the 28th of March, 1515. Her parents were both pious Catholics and in some ways inspired their daughter to take up a life of prayer. As a young child, Teresa showed signs of a deeply religious nature. She would often retreat into silence for prayer and would enjoy giving alms to the poor. She was very close to her mother, who provided a warm counterbalance to the strictness of her father. However, in her teens, Teresa's mother passed away, leaving the young Teresa distraught at the void she left. The young Saint Teresa tells of her despair and how she turned instinctively to the Virgin Mary for comfort. I threw myself down in despair before an image of the Mother of God. With many tears, I implored the Holy Virgin to become my mother now. Uttered with the simplicity of a child, this prayer was heard. From that hour on, I never prayed to the Virgin in vain. During her later teen years, Avila lost some of her early piety and religious zeal. She recounted how she became interested in worldly matters and enjoyed the company of a wide circle of friends. She had a natural charm and found it easy to make friends. In return, she enjoyed the compliments and friendships of others. However, she was not at peace, considering herself to be a miserable sinner. Later, she would look back in guilt at her early life. However, this sense of being a miserable sinner was probably the result of a harsh self-judgment encouraged by her father's exacting religious standards. At the age of 16, her father decided to send Teresa to a convent school to be educated. This reignited in Teresa an interest in following a spiritual life, and after some deliberation, resolved to become a nun of the Carmelite order. At the time, the convent rules were not very strict. It was probably more relaxed than living with her father. The convent accepted many people into the order, often for financial reasons. The convent became overcrowded, and people were often judged not by spiritual intensity, but on material possessions. In this climate, Teresa struggled to find time for quiet reflection, although she did start teaching people on the virtues of mental prayer. Shortly after becoming a nun, Teresa experienced a severe illness, malaria, which left her in great pain for a long period. At one point, it was feared that her illness was so severe that she would not be able to recover. However, during this period of intense physical pain, she began to increasingly experience divine visions and an inner sense of peace. These inner experiences of joy and peace seemed to transcend the intense physical pain of the body. She describes in her own words her state of mind during these trials and tribulations. I bore these sufferings with great composure, in fact with great joy, except at first when the pain was too severe. What followed seemed to hurt less. I was completely surrendered to the will of God, even if He intended to burden me like this forever. The other sisters wondered at my God-given patience. Without him, I truly could not have borne so much with so much joy. When she was a little better, she resumed her prayers with renewed vigor. However, after telling others of her visions and spiritual experiences, she was dissuaded from pursuing them. Certain clergy felt that they were delusions of the devil. As a result, for many years, Teresa lost the confidence to practice her prayers, and her spiritual life was almost put on hold. However, when Teresa was 41, she met a priest who convinced her to go back to her prayers and implore God to come back. Initially, she had some difficulty sitting through prayers. She wryly remarked the end of the hour's prayer couldn't come soon enough. However, in the course of time, she became absorbed in deep contemplation in which she felt an ever-growing sense of oneness with God. At times, she felt overwhelmed with divine love. The experiences were so transforming. She at times felt the illuminating grace of God would wash her soul away. She was so filled with divine contemplation, it is said at times her body would spontaneously levitate. Teresa, however, was not keen on these public displays of miracles. When she felt it happening, she would ask other nuns to sit on her to prevent her from floating away. Teresa was not just quiet, placid saint. She had an endearing, natural quality. Her life energy attracted and inspired many who were close. They admired her for both her outer charm and inner serenity, but at the same time, her religious ecstasies also caused jealousy and suspicion. Unfortunately, she was born into the period of the Spanish Inquisition. During this time, any deviation from the orthodox religious experience came under strict observation and scrutiny. On one occasion, Teresa complained to God about her mistreatment from so many different people. God replied to her saying, "This is how I always treat my friends." With good humor, Teresa replied, "That must be why you have so few friends." Saint Teresa struggled because there were few who could understand and appreciate her inner ecstasies. However, on the one hand, she felt these experiences to be more real than ordinary events. At the age of 43, Saint Teresa decided she wanted to found a new order, recommitting to the values of poverty and simplicity. She wanted to move away from her present convent, which made a life of prayer more difficult. Initially, her aims were greeted with widespread opposition from within the town of Avila. However, with the support of some priests, the opposition waned, and she was allowed to set up her first convent. Teresa proved to be an influential leader and founder. She guided the nuns not just through strict disciplines, but also through the power of love and common sense. Her way was not the way of rigid asceticism and self-denial. Although she underwent many tribulations herself, to others, she stressed the importance of experiencing God's love. As she herself says, "You know, I no longer govern in the way I used to. Love does everything. I am not sure if if that is because no one gives me cause to reprove her, or because I have discovered that things go better in that way. The important thing is not to think much, but to love much, and to do that which best steers you to love. Love is not great delight, but desire to please God in everything. Saint Teresa devoted much of the rest of her life to traveling around Spain, setting up new convents based on the ancient monastic traditions. Her travels and work were not always greeted with enthusiasm. Many resented her reforms and the implied criticism of existing religious orders. She often met with criticism, including the papal nuncio, who used the rather descriptive phrase, "a restless disobedient who has gone about teaching as though she were a professor." Saint Teresa also had a frequently contend with difficult living conditions and her frail health. However, she never let these obstacles dissuade her from her life's task. She eventually died on October 4 at the age of 67. A fellow sister describes the hours just before the death of Saint Teresa. She remained in this position in prayer, full of deep peace and great repose. Occasionally, she gave some outward sign of surprise or amazement, but everything proceeded with great repose. It seemed as if she were hearing a voice which she answered. Her facial expression was so wondrously changed that it looked like a celestial body to us. Thus, immersed in prayer, happy and smiling, she went out of this world into eternal life. Saint Teresa of Avila was one of the great Christian mystics. Overcoming physical ailments, she became fully absorbed in her devotion to God. As contemporary spiritual master, SrNinM says, "In Spain, Teresa of Avila offered to the world something profoundly mystical. Her mystical experience is the most successful culmination of the divine marriage between the aspiring soul and the liberating Christ. And it is here that man's helpless crying will of God and God's omnipotent, all-fulfilling will embrace each other." The poetry of Saint Teresa of Avila. Saint Teresa wrote several volumes of poetry. Her most popular are "God alone is enough. Let nothing upset you. Let nothing startle you. All things pass. God does not change. Patience wins. All it seeks. Whoever has God lacks nothing. God alone is enough. Christ has no body now but yours. No hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes through which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands through which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands. Yours are the feet. Yours are the eyes. You are his body. Christ has no body now on earth but yours."